Let's talk about objective setting. I mean, that's a real classic that you find in almost every organization. It goes like this. One time in a year, the supervisor and the employee, they meet and they talk about the objectives of the individual employee. So the question is, what is he or she supposed to achieve in the upcoming 12 months? And you write it down so that in 12 years you can again sit together, the supervisor and the employee, and talk about how much of what we have agreed did you really achieve. That's the idea, management by objectives. And there is this old idea and this old rule that objectives should be formulated in a smart way. Smart, specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and time-bound. That was necessary because it was clear that an objective like friendliness, high quality, or whatever is not an objective. That's just maybe a virtue, but it's not an objective. So the idea was to be as specific as possible and really measurable and realistic with a clear time frame. So when we look in practice, then we find that this does not really work in most occasions. And there's a reason behind. And the major reason why this rarely works in practice is because of the different nature of the task that people do. So one thing that is really relevant here is what we name task certainty. So let's look at this. It's a little bit academic, but it's quite simple. When you look at tasks people do, you can look at the certainty of outcomes and the certainty of process. What does that mean? Certainty of outcome is very high when it's absolutely clear what's the result of a task, right? If you are a bus driver, the task is clear. At this time, you are here. If you work in housekeeping in a hotel, it's absolutely clear how a room is supposed to look like in the end, right? And process certainty describes how you get there. So for many tasks, it's absolutely clear what are the very concrete steps towards the outcome. There is a very specific path to go. So this is indicated by this circle in this matrix. And also the scope might be rather small, so it might be a task you do 10 times a day or 100 times a day or even 1,000 times a day. It's always the same thing with the same outcome, right? So now let's look at the opposite. The opposite is a task that we could name also a project. It's the red circle here. It's big. You work on this not only just a day or a week, you work on this project over the course of maybe a year or months. And when you start this task, it's not clear what the outcome is going to be. You don't know. Yeah? You might have a direction or something, but you do not see the outcome very clearly. And you means you as a team probably, you do not even see the way to get there. So you have to walk step by step into this uncertainty. And then of course you have the other task. That's clear in between. But let's look at these extremes. And now let's get back to this SMART rule that is so much shared in so many organizations, where so many managers were really encouraged to use the SMART rule. Now, I mean, look at the two cases. Let's look at the repetitive, simple, small task with high task certainty. SMART goals don't make sense here, really. Does not make sense. If you ask a cashier, what are your objectives in the next 12 months? He or she will say, well, my task is to do my job as it is described. The same is with a nurse, with a truck driver, with a bus driver. They do things which are absolutely clearly described. And these things that are clearly described do not apply for the single cashier, for the single nurse, for the single teacher, for the single truck driver. They apply for the whole group of truck driver and for the whole group of nurses and the whole group of cashiers. So what you better have in practice really is not individual smart objectives that you negotiate on a yearly basis, but you have common standard. That's it. They might change, but they change for all, and you might not change them every year. Really not. It's not something that you have negotiate on a yearly basis. It simply makes no sense. And those companies that do this annual objective setting with every employee in every corner of the company, they feel this. They realize how sometimes ridiculous this procedure feels like. So now when we look at the other side, to the projects which are filled with uncertainty, smart objectives are simply not possible. It's not possible. You can expect them as hard as you want. It's not possible because per definition the outcome is not clear, and also the way to get there is not clear. So you will not get any smart objectives. So what you have here are priorities. That's possible. This is what I see in many companies. They say, okay, whatever it will be, the outcome, and however we will get there, there are a few things that we must meet. Some priorities, some golden expectation, or however you name this. So be careful. Smart objectives don't work everywhere. And when people, especially managers, do not deliver smart objectives, it's not because they are not mature enough. It's not because they are lacking leadership skills. It's not because they were not properly educated in using your HR instrument. That's not the point. In some situation, it's simply not possible to define smart objectives.